Good morning, traders. You're listening to Newsware's Trade Talk. This year's your moderator, Shane Scott, and joining me today is Bill Olson, our trading anchor, who brings over 30 years of institutional trading knowledge to our program. Let's get things started with our markets update. U.S. futures are trading higher this morning with S&P futures up 0.21%, Dow futures up 0.09%, and Nasdaq futures up 0.62%. Nasdaq futures have climbed as treasury yields have fallen, signaling a rebound may be next for tech shares after Thursday's sell-off sparked inflation by rising inflation bets. Contracts on S&P and Dow Jones also edged higher after U.S. shares slid from a record. The yield on 10-year treasury benchmark has slipped back below 1.7%, a threshold it hasn't breached since January 2020. The dollar is steady, and WTI crude oil held above $60 a barrel after a 7% plunge. Overall, a calmer tone is ending a volatile week in which Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell pushed inflation fears even higher by messaging he's willing to run the economy hot to help it recover out from the fallout of COVID-19, and that he's not very concerned about rising yields. Over in Europe, the Stock 600 index has declined, led by banks and retailers, while bond yields across the region retreated. Adding to negative sentiment, France announced a lockdown of areas, including Paris, to fight the pandemic. Over in Asia, China's CSI 300 share gauge slumped as less than friendly U.S.-China relations added to negative sentiment. And meanwhile, Japan's Topix rallied and Nikkei 225 sank after the Bank of Japan said it will focus on purchases of exchange-traded funds on the former gauge. Bill, what are you seeing as far as market updates?
Well, Shane, I've been watching the S&Ps all morning long, and what I'm seeing is that they were negative for the most part. But then they started showing signs of strength this morning with technology shares really displaying some good gains. So, I look at the S&P now and it's rising, so that's a nice positive. The U.S. economy really is headed for one of its strongest periods of growth. So, that really is a net positive here, and you have to really kind of consider that. The bond yields, yes, they're rising, but rising bond yields really is an indication that the economy is getting stronger. So that while it's a concern on tech shares, it still is a positive on the overall economy. And I think today you're going to see the tech shares, rally across the board. I see that the U.S. and China started their talks yesterday in Alaska. These are early talks, but they were highly negative. Both sides were trading barbs, trying to knock the other guy down a little bit. But they're really hoping to cut this. These talks are going to lead to a summit next month, which will be a positive influence for the markets. Oil futures, you got to keep an eye on them. I mean, crude futures were up 1.5%. Now they're up 0.75%. As I've been saying, they're going to be range bound for a while until that next OPEC meeting. But today is an up day for oil. It looks like after yesterday's big sell-off. Another thing is, Biden is saying that his U.S. goal of administering 100 million COVID vaccine shots, well, that's basically in the bag. So now he's going to be releasing his next target next week. So keep an eye on that, and that's going to be affecting the drug companies, and that's an interesting developing story.
Let's talk earnings to watch today. Bill, what are we looking at as far as earnings?
You got to look at FedEx. they delivered a 23-cent beat. They delivered that on higher guidance, on higher revenue and higher guidance. So it's a positive all around. You look at the shares and they're up 1.7% this morning, or $4.47. Then you have Nike. Well, Nike's a little bit of a different story. Nike did deliver. They delivered a 14-cent beat on higher revenue, but there are some concerns there, which I was mentioning yesterday. And you see that the stock's down almost 2%. It's down $2.67 this morning. And let's take a quick look at Ali Bargain Basement Stores. This is a growth company, in the retail sector, and they've been doing very well over the last few years. And they delivered a 12-cent beat on higher revenue, and you see the stock is up 4.36% this morning.
Well, I know we got a lot of upcoming earning announcements, Bill. So what are we seeing as far as that goes?
Yeah, there's some good ones next week. Some of the ones that I just focused on this morning are, Winnebago, which is coming out Tuesday. That's ticker WGO. They're priced for a 15% move. KB Homes, ticker KBH, they're priced for a 12% move when they release earnings on Tuesday. RH, this used to be known as Restoration Hardware. It's now just known as RH. They're priced for a 14% move when they release on Tuesday. Then you got Darden's Restaurant on Wednesday. That's ticker DRI. They're priced for a 10% move. And here's an interesting one. On Wednesday, Riot Blockchain, that's ticker RIOT, Richard India Oscar Tom. It's Riot Blockchain. They're priced for a 23% move when they release. Think about cryptocurrencies and the move that they've had over the last quarter and how that could, develop into a profitable earnings forecast for Riot. This is how I'm looking at Riot. Also on 326, you have TIGR. That's Tom India Grace Richard, also known as Up FinTech. They're priced for a 30% move when they release earnings. And that's just a few of the earnings that are coming out. There's some other big name companies releasing next week. I just haven't had a chance to go through them all, but I will over the weekend.
How about economic reports, Bill? What do we see in there?
It's light. The calendar's really light today, but you do have the Baker Hughes rig count figures coming out today at 1 o'clock. They did fall back a little bit after that Texas storm, but I expect them to be, edging higher when they release their latest figures today at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving into our morning's critical insights, starting things off with one on Rockley Photonics, company that's entering into a merger with SPAC called SC Health, ticker SCPE. In result, Rockley will become a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol RKLY and values the company at a combined value of $1.2 billion. SC Health is up 0.4% in pre-market so far. One on ACOM, ticker ACM. The company was awarded a U.S. Air Force contract for its services with a $2 billion program ceiling. ACOM's share price is up 2.21% in pre-market. News on Starbucks, ticker SBUX. Shareholders voted against an executive compensation proposal, which would include a one-time bonus award for CEO Kevin Johnson of $1.9 million for the 2020 fiscal year. Starbucks share price is up 1.25% in pre-market. In other news, Restaurants Brand International, that's ticker QSR, their company Popeyes is entering into a new agreement with JK Capital to bring hundreds of new Popeyes restaurants to Mexico over the next coming years. So their share price is up 0.28% in pre-market so far. One on Ford, ticker F. Ford announced last night that it will build some F-150 trucks as well as edge crossovers without certain electronic modules due to the global semiconductor shortage. Other news on Ford is that it was upgraded to overweight at a price target that went from $9 to $16 by Barclays, off of the news that Ford Europe's alliance with Volkswagen, that jumped the companies will likely be making into EV in the 2025 to 2030 period. Ford share price is up 3.2% in pre-market. Lastly, for me, Toyota Motors, ticker TM, disclosed in a regulatory filing on Thursday that it had reported possible anti-bribery violations related to a Thai subsidiary to the U.S. SEC and Department of Justice in April 2020. Toyota's share price is up 0.74% in pre-market. Bill, what are you seeing as far as this morning's news?
Well, Shane, I break my news down into specific alerts based on sectors and events, and it really does, deliver for me because I can really quickly do my research, which it takes most people hours to do. I can do it in minutes. It's dramatically different. It's a huge advantage. And I look at the FANG stocks this morning. I see Amazon. Amazon acquired the exclusive rights from the NFL to broadcast Thursday Night Football. That's a big win for Amazon. Google said it's going to be spending $7 billion this year on expanding its footprint in offices and data centers across the U.S. Apple's coming up with a mixed reality headset. It's going to be equipped with advanced eye tracking system. And shares of Twitter. This is kind of interesting. The company said yesterday that it's going to be seeking input on when and how it should ban world leaders, saying that it's reviewing its policy and considering whether the world leaders should be held to the same rules as other users. Social media platforms, including Twitter and Facebook, have really been under scrutiny the way they handled, these accounts of the politicians over the past elections. So now they're trying to, rewrite their laws for politicians because it is a different sector. And my Dow Jones 30 alert, Goldman Sachs, they're in talks with JetBlue to take over their credit card program. Now, their credit card program is owned right now by Barclays, and I could see this as a good entry mark into the credit card distribution segment for Goldman Sachs. So this would be a big win if they're able to pull that off. JP Morgan, that's ticker JPM, they're going to be buying a 10% stake in China's Merchant Bank's wealth management subsidiary. And Boeing, they have a deep space rocket that passed the key engine test yesterday, and they're working with NASA on this rocket. In my option headlines, I see that Bank of America's the 30-day option implied volatility is at 34. Now you got to compare that to the 52-week range where it's 29 to 124, so it seems a little undervalued. Ticker GEVO, Grace Edward Victor Oscar, their 30-day implied volatility is at 155. Look at that compared to the 52-week range of 159 to 281. And you look at that, could be undervalued as well. And we're looking at Schlumberger, that's ticker SLB, Sam Larry Boy. Their 30-day implied volatility is at 50 with a 52-week range of 43 to 174. My FDA alert went off on AZN this morning, ticker Apple Zebra Nancy. Apparently nearly a dozen countries have resumed using AstraZeneca's COVID-19 shots. As the EU and the British regulators said, the benefits are really outweighing any risks associated with the rare instances of blood clotting. And then on top of that, you have France and other countries in Indonesia and Germany. They're also re-administering the shots because, the benefits do outweigh the smallest instances of the blood clots that people have seen. I have a secondary alert that went off on SKLZ, Sam Kilo Larry Zebra. They're unveiling a new pricing on their upcoming public offering of 32 million shares. It's going to be priced at $34 a share. White Mountain, ticker WTN, William Tom Nancy. They're pricing 7 million shares at $46 a share. In terms of events, there's this emerging growth conference that runs through today, and I noticed that there's two companies that are going to be making presentations. Biocept, which is ticker BIOC, Boy, India, Oscar, Charlie, and Applied Data Sciences, APDN, Apple, Paul, David, Nancy. Might be something interesting, something to watch from these two companies as they make their presentations today.
Moving into our Trade Talk picks for today, I'm picking Restaurant Brands International, ticker QSR, the owner of Popeyes. They're entering in this new agreement with JK Capital. They're going to bring a lot of Popeyes restaurants to Mexico. That's great news for them. And also just the fact that we're seeing that there's a lot more demand going into restaurants now that we're getting a lot more immunity. People are getting their vaccinations. There's a demand to go back into restaurants, and they're getting a lot more activity in the recent days, recent weeks. So this is something that I could see going a lot higher for them. So I would get in at around $65. It's a little bit higher than that right now, closer to 3%. But if we can get in at 65, that's a good option. And I think we can see a rise from there. What's your pick looking at today, Bill?
I'm looking at KB Homes. That's ticker KBH, Kilo Boy Henry. I mean, here's the thing. Earnings are next week. Stocks typically like to run a little hot into earnings. You're looking at a positive day in the market. So factor one, that's on its side. And if you can get in at 43.5, I think you're going to see a little run, and then you can see a little bit more of a run on Monday ahead of those earnings. Think about the other home builders that have released earnings. They really did show price appreciation after that earnings announcement. So I'm watching shares of KB Homes today for a nice little move to the upside.
Well, let's go ahead and move into what's hot off the press. So looking at the news that's hitting the tape as we speak, all the headlines that we have streaming in on our Newsware alerts, which are the ones that we should be letting traders know about, Bill?
Let's look at shares of Tesla. Tom, Sam, Larry, Apple. China's restricting Tesla's usage by military and state personnel. They're really trying to crack down on Tesla usage and their sales in China right now. This is negative news for Tesla.
Good news for Clovis, ticker CLVS. They've jumped 20% in pre-market to $6.39 per share after phase 3 study updates on Rubrica, one of their treatments.
Here's one on the banking sector, and it's from Bank of America. Apparently, they saw a record $68.3 billion flying into equities this week. And according to their strategist, it really was a record week, and the year to date is $347 billion. So a lot of that's going into the financials. So that's kind of interesting. I think the financials are getting to be a little bit of a crowded trade, but it is something to note.
One on Westwater, ticker WWR. They're going to begin trading on New York Stock Exchange, American Stock Exchange, under the same ticker symbol.
Ticker OSIS, Oscar Sam, India Sam. This is OSI Systems. They received a $6 million order to provide baggage and partial inspection systems.
Looks like Texas Roadhouse, ticker TXRH, has promoted President Jerry Morgan to CEO.
I see a number of price target increases in the automotive parts sector, specifically on AAP, Advanced Auto Parts, and O'Reilly Automotive, and AutoZone, AZO. Anything
else interesting for you, Bill?
I see on Citibank, Goldman Sachs came out and thinks that Citi's strategic initiatives could lead to an $89 share price, but that's all I'm seeing.
Well, that'll do it for us as far as what's hot at the press. Traders, keep in mind, you can receive the same breaking stories we do simply by subscribing at newsware.com. So check us out. Get a free trial. Moving into our scoreboard, talking about how our picks did from Thursday. I had Boston Scientific, ticker BSX, which opened at $38.85 a share. And after a few rises and falls, ultimately closed lower at $38.19 a share for a 1.69% loss. Didn't really end up the way we wanted it to. How'd yours end up doing, Bill?
Well, I did a WDC yesterday, which is Western Digital. Now, this was an event play. Now, the event happened at 4 o'clock yesterday, where they went over their virtual conference with regards to their new flash memory that they were coming out with. I listened to it a little bit. The CEO was really touting the strength of Western Digital over the years, saying how they're a leader in all these categories. It was a nice road play, but at the end of the day, it's about the price. And I was saying, you want to get in late afternoon. You don't want to get in early in the morning. The stock, if you got in early in the morning, hey, the stock ran from the opening print. It ran at like $1.50 from the opening print, but then it sold off from there along with the rest of the tech sectors. But here it is, late in the day, stock's at 69. It's a great price. And then you look at it today, it's up, a 1.7%. I see a trade of 70-30 going off. So that's, 1.4%, I think. So Western Digital was a good move. It was a tricky one, but it was a good trade overall.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Trade Talk. But traders, you know what to do. Let's get out there. Let's make some green.